What's up? I'm back, and this segment is gonna be short. Talk about a little bit of abstract thought and sci-fi, and why, in a sense, for your spiritual education, science, being able to appreciate all arts of Venus, whether it's science fiction, whether it's literature, whether it's poetry, whether it's music, it's very healthy, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people in the spiritual community are not achieving the potential that they're supposed to. Because if you look at the spiritual community, they always say, well, we got the knowledge, you know, the people in the matrix are sleeping. But when you really look at it very carefully, are people in the spiritual community really passing people in the matrix? It's basically just one religion replacing another religion. Because even atheism is a religion too. They just don't know it. And when you look at it from a certain angle, science fiction in particular, it helps be able to kind of get concepts that are beyond the traditional time and space, the now. And in a sense, it's basically helps you understand concepts beyond really even the present. Because if you say even a concept like Spider-Man, with power comes responsibility, a lot of people quote that line, and I have to admit, they kind of understand it. And in a way, it seems kind of easy to understand, it kind of seems like easy, like a regular thought, but there's some power and there's some truth to that. Because realistically, even with the spiritual community, think of it. The spiritual community tends to be into acquiring supernatural powers, right? Well, here a concept that was started in the comic book where he was talking about, hey, if you get power, there's a responsibility, which matches in real spirituality, not the Kmart version, but the real spirituality. Yeah, powers just makes you be able to connect to nature more. If you got telepathy or clairvoyance, intuition, that was just basically things to help you connect to nature more and to find your place in it. It wasn't really for displaying it and showing off and trying to gain power over other people. So when you look at a basic concept in Spider-Man, it actually held a lot of metaphysical truth. Even the whole concept in Star Wars. Like I always tell people, listen, if you want to know about how the Force works, or what they call the Force, what the Chinese call Chi and Indians call Prana, I always tell people Star Wars matches it. In fact, if you think of it, because if you go by just the Chinese and the Indian version, you tend the Chi or Prana or the Force tends to be more mechanical. You do the breathing exercises, you meditate, it connects you to the divine. But in Star Wars and George Lucas's movies, he kind of actually explained how, in a way, it's living. It's like it has an intelligence, in a sense, and it's around certain individuals. Even though it exists everywhere, it's around certain individuals in a higher concentration. So when you look at it very carefully, I mean, it kind of Lucas got things about the Force that sometimes the ancients didn't even get at the time. And that's from an abstract concept. Like that's from understanding, because abstract concepts, abstract thinking leads to abstract reasoning. Even if your mind is logical, it helps your mathematical mind. It helps if you were into applied sciences, abstract thought becomes crucial. So this is why sometimes it basically just gets you to think, but think out the box in a way. It's like when an artist draws an apple and you look at the bright color red, but then you look at it and you say, what does this mean though? Right? Beyond the traditional logic. That helps you spiritually. In Kabbalah, why you think they say Kita Binan Chakman? You can't even understand that, so don't even try. Because most people are not used to thinking on that level. They're thinking it's beyond the logic. And even though it's beyond the logic, it's not just saying, my intuition. It's a combination of both. It's like a type of, instead of just thinking and feeling, you think and feel at the same time. Very hard to understand. It's kind of like your brain's starting to feel and your heart's starting to think. That's what it really comes down to. And in a lot of ways, sometimes if you don't understand abstract concept, abstract thought, which leads to abstract reasoning, you're not going to get it. So a lot of times when I see some people saying, I wonder why I am going into more science fiction route. Well, first off, the other channel I'm doing more science, so sci-fi balance is I'm all about balance. And I just think that we're in bad shape as a community, all humans in general, if some people are trying to get complex metaphysical ideas and they weaken science and they weaken even the arts. Like, those are the two. Like, I mean, look at the Tree of Life, Nazak is kind of more the arts, Had, Nasa, kind of the arts. Hard is kind of more logic. Going into type of riff, which is kind of like a combination of both. If you don't got the logic or the control of the emotional mind, which could lead into intuitive mind, how are you going to do this? And I think that's why you see a lot of spirituality or spiritual people suffering or not really being able to go to the potential that they're supposed to because of a lack of understanding of the arts. You know, in a lot of ways, there was always a relationship between the occultism, and the arts, of course, because the arts was a way to basically explain certain ideas without having to explain it yourself. The person will still have to be able to put two and two together and come up with what you're trying to say, almost like decoding it. But when they decoded it, they decoded it by themselves, and that's a form of experience, because occultism is all about experience. So a lot of times when a lot of people into the spiritual community might say, I'm not into science fiction. Cool. But are you into literature? Are you into music? This is why I put out top 10 best writers of all time. You don't have to be sci-fi, but it has to be poetry. It should be something to kind of give your brain the ability to kind of decode things that the logical mind can't see outright, or things or concepts that's beyond your point in time and space. So I hope that helps. Abstract thought, very important. Till next time. Peace.